Good evening, Facebook family. Welcome to another episode of Marriage Mondays with Nick and Trina Brinson. And we're here to bring you some information about marriages and how to make marriages better based on the information that we give you. So tonight we're going to talk about the language of apology. Okay.
Will you tell who you represent?
Yeah, that's what.
That's you, and I'm gonna start here.
Well, we represent Crown Kingdom Cultural Center, located in North Augusta, South Carolina, under the leadership of our Bishop, Finest Bush Jr., and Lady Denise Bush. And I just want to thank them for spearheading a very, for a good weekend this weekend. Our church had a church cookout. So it was a great time amongst the saints, and we had a wonderful time fellowshipping and having fun with each other. But with that said, tonight's episode with the language of apology is very important in your marriage relationship because it's one of the key things that you need in your toolbox in order to make your relationship continue to move forward. And it often is good to use because of things that you don't know what's going on with the person. You know your partner, but you don't know if you've done something to offend them. So learning to say I'm sorry in so many words or actions can help your marriage move forward. And we're going to talk about some of the things in an apology that you should not do and still be sincere about your apology so your partner can understand your apology sincerely.
Yeah, I really think about this stepping up your apology skills. I really think about it in association with your overall communication skills. So we're always telling y'all, work on your marriage skills and learning to apologize effectively is a very important piece to learn in communicating with your partner. Forgiveness is critical. We know that forgiveness is a huge part of marriage, is you've got to be willing to forgive and learn to forgive quickly. Not to let things linger. You don't want to move into resentment, which is what we talked about last week. But you want to be able to forgive swiftly. But the other side of that forgiveness, if you're not the one giving the forgiveness, you're the one asking forgiveness. And that's not always as simple and cut and dry as you might think. I'm sorry, it's not always enough. And so we will talk to you about some skills you can some ways to effectively apologize. But let's start out looking at some things, common mistakes that people make, or less effective ways to apologize. And the first thing you want to avoid when giving an apology is making excuses. So you don't want to say things like, oh, well, I didn't mean it when I said XYZ. Okay, but you said it. It doesn't matter if you meant it or not, as much as the fact that you said it, and then there's repercussions from what you said. So you don't want to make excuses. Another example of that would be, well, I only did it because so-and-so did X, or I only did this because you did that. You know, I only bought a boat because you went out and bought a car without telling me. So, you know, that's making excuses for it, or that lessens the effectiveness of your apology. And it really makes it sound insincere, which makes it a little more difficult, the task of forgiveness a little bit more difficult on your spouse when you come across with excuses. Nobody wants to hear excuses. And so another thing to avoid when you're giving and asking for forgiveness is shifting blame. And what I mean by shifting blame is saying things like, well, I'm sorry that you were offended. Okay, but if the problem is not that you're sorry they're offended, what you should be sorry for is what you did that got them offended. Mm-hmm. Whether or not they got offended, that's up to them as to what their level of offense, their threshold of offense is. That's on them. That has nothing to do with you. So it doesn't help for you to say you're sorry somebody was offended. You could have to take ownership of what you did. So avoid shifting blame to the person. Another one that kind of, you want to say something on that?
That's what we talk about in communication called using iMessages. Start with yourself first, and then whatever you've done, then you tell that person, I am sorry that I did this, and then instead of sorry that you, because that's not going to get you anywhere.
Right, but we don't want to focus on
communication.
No, I'm just saying we're talking about what not to do.
Right.
We don't want to get it mixed up.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm just trying to stay focused. That's all. Reel us back in. Another one is, which is similar to what we just said about shifting blame, is casting doubt on somebody else's experience. And it's that word if. That's one of the ones that get me. How, when you say, well, I'm sorry if you were upset by what I did. Okay, if you see that there's a need for you to apologize, then the word if is not necessary in that, because what if does, it makes it conditional, and that leaves room for you to imply that you were not in fact to blame, that maybe it was just on how that person took it, and so it casts doubt, and that just ruins the whole apology, if you ask me. When somebody says, oh, well, my bad if that offended you, or that was, I'm sorry if what I said was if you took it the wrong way. That's not an apology. That's just, you just starting some more mess right now. So another thing to avoid, something to avoid is using past behavior to justify current behavior. So sometimes we'll say, I'm sorry, but it was okay when I was growing up. Or that might be the case. Let me read what's on here. You'll hear someone say, I'm sorry, but it's okay. That was okay when I was growing up. And that might be the case. But it might be valuable to discuss that after the apology. That's not necessarily what you want to lead with when you're trying to get an apology. It kind of goes back to just trying to justify that, oh, well, that's how I was raised. Or, well, the people I grew up with, we didn't get mad about stuff like that. That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant when you're starting off in an apology. You have to be able to show some sincerity. So you just want to be able to avoid those things, making excuses, using that word if to make it conditional, which diminishes a person's experience, shifting blame, and also using past behaviors like, oh, well, that's just how I am. Right. That's using past behavior to justify what you did. And that doesn't belong in the place of a sincere apology.
Yeah, based on that last one you talked about right there, I think people are trying to protect egos when they don't want to accept responsibility. They're trying to protect their egos. Now, I'm just going to tell you like this, and this is for me just as much as for you. I'll talk about that later. Don't worry about it.
All right, so we're going to shift and use the book as a resource, or refer to a book we read years ago.
Right.
By Gary Chapman. Y'all know he wrote the 5 love languages. And we've referred to that, and we went over that recently. Didn't we have a lesson on it? Yeah. And so once we were familiar with the 5 love languages, we later saw that there was a book written by the same author for 5 languages of apology. Since then, they have revamped the book, and it's not titled that anymore. So if you wanted to, to look it up, it's not under the title of the 5 languages of apology. It is called When Saying I'm Sorry Is Not Enough. Or When Sorry Is Not Enough. That's what it is. But it's by the same author, Gary Chapman. And you can look it up very easily online. And there's also a test.
Right.
Do you want me to go and tell a little bit about the test?
Yeah, we can tell about the test and how our results came out.
Okay, and then we'll go through.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to let him lead the next part of this lesson, but if you go online and Google apology languages test, if somebody would type that in, I'd appreciate it. Apology languages test. If you Google that, it will take you to a website where you can actually take a test to find out what your preference is for an apology. What it is that's important to you when someone is apologizing, for you to feel like that apology was sincere, and to for you to be able to accept that apology. What is it that you're looking for? Thank you, Jennifer. Apologies languages test. And it'll take you to a place where you can, I think it's about maybe 20, 25 questions, something like that. And it'll give you options, just like the love language test. It's the same thing. And it will give you a result. And we both did it, and we each have our results. So just real quick, I'll tell you my preferred language of apology was making restitution. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. What was yours?
My main one was request forgiveness.
Yeah, and that didn't surprise me that was yours, because I can. It's just like with the love language, we have a tendency to want to give someone the way we would like to receive, and so I could see in the way you apologize and also in the way that I apologize, both these responses make sense. So if you don't mind, kind of lead us through what these apology languages are,
okay,
and explain what they mean.
One thing I want to mention about our results, and I took a look at hers, a few seconds ago. Our second and third option are the same, and it's almost the same percentages.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Act responsibly and expressing regret, and the percentages are exactly the same.
Again. Accept responsibility
and expressing regret.
Okay.
And they're the same percentages. So that kind of tells you where you are in your apology language. But we're going to go with the apology languages. The first one we're going to talk about, expressing regret. That's the one where somebody just says, "I'm sorry." And most time for that person, if their language of apology is expressing regret, that's the one. That's all you basically got to do with that person, is just most of the time say, "I'm sorry," and they would go on and accept that response from you, and really don't press you to do anything else. Now, to make it sincere, you got to be specific to the action that you're sorry for. I am sorry for not doing what I told you I was going to do. I'm sorry for missing our lunch date. You got to be specific with what you're sorry for. You just can't say, "Well, I'm sorry." That's not enough. Mm-mm. You got to be specific for what you're sorry for. Now, when you tell them that, they expect you not to do it again. That's the expectation.
I think also with that, it's important to know that a person whose primary love language is expressing regret, you can come with a long explanation of how you're going to fix it and what's going to be better. But if they don't hear those words, "I'm sorry," you just wasted all that breath.
Yes, you did.
Because that's a person that needs to hear you say those words. Mm-hmm. But it's really important to know what your spouse, what their apology language is, because some people feel like that's enough. "Well, I said I'm sorry." Or they'll say they're sorry, and they feel that's all that they have to say. I mean, I think it's great for you to say that, but "I'm sorry" just don't mean that much to me. It really, for someone like mine, was my primary language was making restitution. So I need to know how you're going to make it better. Just saying "I'm sorry," it really don't mean much. And some people think once they said "I'm sorry," that they're through with it. They can just walk, everything's good. We can hug it out and move on. But my spouse need to know that that's a no-go. And you probably know that by now.
Mm-hmm. I don't care nothing about that one either.
Yeah, it's just not that big of a deal. I appreciate that you admit that you're sorry. That's great. But I certainly need more. But for some people,
that's enough.
For some people, that's critical.
Yeah.
That's critical. Nothing else matters if you don't say "I'm sorry." If they don't hear that admission, then they just have to hear those words.
Right.
So.
All right. The next one we're going to talk about is accepting responsibility. There's nothing, for this person, understanding that, "I'm sorry I did this," or, when you're talking about saying "I was wrong," and then you don't make excuses for it. "I was wrong for violating our agreement that we made." They need to know that you are accepting responsibilities for your actions. And we talked a few minutes ago, you can't use the if you had been on time, or if you would have called me in this, you're making excuses for your action. Go ahead.
So, this happened a while ago. Your volume is up. You might want to turn that down. This happened a while ago. I can't remember how long ago. It may even been over a couple of years. No, it wasn't. But anyway. So we had a time set aside for a date night, which was agreed upon. We both agreed upon this time, 5 o'clock. Saturday, I believe it was. And so you were doing lots of different activities for church, outside, doing stuff for the home. Then 5 o'clock rolls around, you were not prepared to go out. I was beautiful, prepared to go, and you had just come from outside. And I let you know that I didn't want to go nowhere with you because I was quite upset about that. And the apology, do you know where I'm going with this? Because you're looking like you don't have no clue what I'm saying.
I know the situation you're talking about, but I don't know where you're going with this.
Where I'm going with this is accepting responsibility.
Okay.
And so, or the lack thereof. And so, he became upset about the fact that I didn't want to go out with him because he broke the contract that we had. That was my hang up. And so his hang up was, okay, but I was in the house at 5 o'clock. And we had, okay, we'll get that in a second. And so we had this disagreement because it didn't mean anything to me. You remember, and then I think the next day you wanted to bring me something to apologize, a gift or something, trying to apologize and make amends, and I just was not interested at all. And the reason why was because I felt like you did not accept responsibility for it. If we made an agreement and you didn't uphold your end of the deal, that's what I have an issue with. And you already know I always use this thing. I don't like being jerked around. So if we got something planned, let's stick to what we have planned. And for you to just assume that I'm going to be flexible and compromise when there was no good reason in my mind for you not to be on time. I felt like you just took advantage of the fact that it was just me. It wasn't a work situation. It wasn't, somebody else you had to meet. I think you took advantage of the fact that it was just me and that you wouldn't accept responsibility for that. I really didn't care about the I'm sorry. I didn't care about no gift. I wanted you to admit that it was that you dropped the ball on what you were responsible for.
Okay. I mean, I remember the situation.
Okay, well, tell us about it.
I mean, you just told the people.
I can only tell my side, what I remember. Well, I mean, I don't know what's going through your head with all that.
Oh, well, what the situation was at hand was I was home in the shower, probably about 5:05. But she stuck to that 5 o'clock time limit. And, I had to really go in my prayer closet because I really felt unappreciated. So I was like, okay, let me see why I made the mistake, Lord, and not respecting her time. I think that's where it all got bad at. And doing that, I was like, okay, that wasn't my fault. If we're gonna be that tight on time, I'll accept that responsibility.
Ooh, you just did so much stuff that we just said not to do.
What?
If
I'm saying, if it was the time factor and we did that,
he still
I
ain't
accept
learned.
Responsibility for
he
it.
still ain't learned. Y'all pray for it.
I did say I accept responsibility for it.
But you didn't accept responsibility because what you're doing right now is trying to explain it.
Well, then you asked me to explain, didn't you?
I want you to give me your perspective on the situation.
So, you know what? There's some resentment here, some people, because this feels like the time we really got into the argument, got into the situation.
Okay, well, the resentment must be on your side.
It must be.
Yeah, because you all frowned up. Can you see yourself?
Yeah, I see myself. I see myself, people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must be some resentment.
It must be. I don't have no resentment, but I thought it was a good example of a real life situation. But if it's still touchy for you, we can move on.
Yeah, we need to move on.
Okay.
All right.
Let the Lord use you.
Every day. All right. This is the responsibility. Which one we doing next?
Now you got y'all discombobulated, huh?
Mm-mm.
I don't know. You got the papers over there on this one. That was accepted responsibility. So what's another love language? I mean, what's it called? Language of apology. See what resentment can do to you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got a whole list of. Was you in line yesterday?
Yeah, I was standing there with you, boo.
Yeah, but you ain't participated, did you?
All right. Genuine repentance.
Genuine repentance.
Yes. Okay. Genuine. Let's see. Genuine repentance. That is when you're truly is when you're truly acting in a way that shows a person that you are sincere about your apology to them. You truly apologizing in a way that the person understands that you are doing this in a way to show them that you are really sorry for what you've done in this situation.
So how do you do that? Because you can be truly sorry but not express that well to another person. So tell me some more about that.
Well, with that one, it's good to know the person's love language in this case, because you could tell them you're sorry and then express their love language to them to let them know that, okay, I'm thinking about you in this situation. So, like for you, if your love language is acts of service, if I'm genuinely repentant for that action, what you're going to get is, okay, I'm sorry for what I did, and what can I do for you to make you understand that I am sorry for this, or what needs to be done, and we can have a discussion about that, and then we can go from there.
So really, just being sincere and making sure that sincerity comes across by putting some thought into being strategic, which goes back to using those skills.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
What's another language of apology? Let's talk about the one I had, restitution. You got that? Sir?
Yeah, making restitutions, yes.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
How does that look? What does it mean to make restitutions for your apology? What needs to happen? All right. When you're talking about making restitutions, it's when it's an apology. You say, I'm sorry and I was wrong and it's not enough. Also, you make it where the person, when you make restitution, there has to be an exchange. There has to be some justification for how you apologize. It's just this person really, like she said earlier, this person does not really accept I'm sorry, because something has to be exchanged in order for them to see that while you're apologizing in the first place. So it has to be a position. So what needs to be done for you to make restitution?
I didn't quite understand what you said there.
Talking about when you make restitution?
You talk about exchanging something.
Yeah. There's justification that needs to be made. And that justification is, because you've done something to me, I need you to show me that you really and sincerely apologize. So that's the justification.
Okay. So to me, that sounds like we're trying to make some amends, right?
Yep.
Because and that's really the thing that I'm looking for is, and I'm looking to see what are you going to do to make up for what you did? Is that kind of what you're saying when you're saying justice and justification?
Right.
Okay. So that makes sense to me, because it's important to me that if you've, I don't want to go back to the touchy, where you still have a tender spot. Let me think of another example.
Don't wait for that now.
Okay, let me think of something else. So if we're talking about, and y'all, we hadn't studied this in a while, this apology information. We were kind of familiar, but we didn't do our homework as well as we normally do. So that's why we kind of stumbling through it, but it's something that's good for us to review as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, you got your papers together because you distracted me.
Talk to your people.
Okay, so making restitution, to me, what that means to me is you are going to not only admit what you did, but you're also going to do something to make up for it. And is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
For making restitution?
Right.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a good example. Oh, I'm going to go back. Now, if this still touching for you, you need Jesus, and you should have been on the altar yesterday. So, when we had the healing service for resentment. So, I had this table one time. And this table was made of cherry wood. I really liked this table. I shopped around for it. It was to go in my office. I was getting my office together. You know, I was going to have people do therapy at the house and everything. And so I really took my time and shopped around and found this desk that I really liked. It was made of cherry wood. Okay. Love this little desk. So that's my toe. Ouch. So we moved from one house to another. And during that move, he and a good friend who shall remain nameless, but he knows who he is. In the course of moving, the two of them decided to turn my desk upside down and put, a couple of TVs, one or two TVs on top of it, and drug the desk off of the back of a truck with the heavy items on it, which left my desk scratched up. Okay? So my spouse didn't want to replace my desk. I felt it was necessary. He felt it wasn't that bad. And that it could be, what did you think was that it could just be covered up, or I don't know what he thought, but we didn't have the same thoughts. My thought was, you need to replace my desk. You damaged my property and it needed to be replaced. And we went for years arguing over that desk. I was not going to replace it. He didn't, because I could replace it. He wasn't going to pay for it. He did not replace it. Did not feel that, he thought it was totally ridiculous for me to even suggest for him to replace this desk that he damaged. He admitted he damaged it. Told me exactly how it got damaged. Him and his friend, both of them highly educated, probably 4, 5, 6 degrees between the two of them. And they scratched up my desk horribly. And he finally replaced it after it came up a couple times in counseling. And he agreed. I think that's the place where you agreed to replace my desk. And you did. It's the one back there. So that was making restitution. That it was that important to me to have restitution. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what? Tell me about that. Well, see, you
at
could,
the time.
wait. Now you could be the one to come up with examples too. Now,
I mean, at the time, the desk was scratched. It was still functional, and since the desk was still functional, I didn't feel no need to replace it.
But do you see me using raggedy, scratched up, jacked up stuff?
You're the only one gonna see it.
That's not true. I had clients coming to the house.
You were the only one that was gonna see it.
But you were wrong, and it was mine. You don't get to decide what's okay.
See, I never said it wasn't yours, but I was like, it was this thing is still functional. Why we're replacing a desk that's still functional? And that was my argument for about 7 years, I guess, or longer.
So if you way too long.
Okay.
So if you had to do it over again, would you give me excuses? Let me see what it said. Don't do. Don't give excuses. Casting doubt on others' experience, because I don't like to have. I like to look at nice stuff, and especially if I got to work, it's a distraction to me when there's stuff that needs to be done, and I can't fix it. I need my workspace to be where I can focus on work, and so you casting doubt on the fact that I felt that desk needs to be replaced.
Do you really want to know what I would do now?
Mm-hmm.
I would move the desk a different kind of way, so it doesn't get scratched.
Okay, that would be a very wise choice. I'm glad to hear that, and we haven't had that happen again, and we haven't moved since then. So, if the desk were damaged, how would you handle that?
If it's your desk and it's not if it's your desk, I'll replace it.
So we wouldn't.
Without so much, because here's the thing. We've done stuff like this to each other in the past, and my wife was very gracious in something that she damaged in mine, and she replaced it.
Oh, your black suit.
Why are you laughing?
I'm sorry. It was ass.
Y'all, it was the best black suit ever, too.
You're not buying it?
No, I bought it.
Okay.
But,
I'm sorry. But, okay, well, let's look at that. That's a good example.
Yeah, it's a good example.
Yeah, so I accidentally washed
coat and pants.
Okay, it was in the dirty clothes. With
My
the clothes
dirty
that get washed.
My clothes.
Oh.
Because you didn't wash my clothes. I don't know why you washed my clothes.
Because they were probably dirty and were being neglected.
They were my clothes.
But see, that goes back to how making excuses doesn't help.
Right.
It don't help for me to say, well, you should have had your clothes in the right spot, or it shouldn't have been mixed in with the dirty clothes that get washed. Why would you mix dry clean with wash? None of that is relevant.
No questions need to be asked in that situation.
Even if it's a valid point. It doesn't help when you're trying to ask forgiveness.
True.
None of that matters. So I did apologize, and I replaced your suit right away.
No, ma'am. No, now. It took a while to replace the suit.
Well, suits are expensive. I might not have had the money like that back then. That desk wasn't that expensive. No, it was not.
All right. Y'all see the Brinsons. We still got some stuff, y'all.
The suit cost more than that desk. That desk wasn't that expensive. I just liked it a lot. That desk wasn't that. It was under $200. It sure was. That was back in the day too. That desk was not terribly expensive.
Well,
it was just what I liked. Yeah, but I didn't like it as much as what. But that's neither nor there. Y'all pray for us.
Please.
Y'all pray. Just pray. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
So as you can see, we really needed some help with the whole apology situation. We've had several instances. We can probably think of some more the longer we sit here. Yeah.
And it's important to your marriage that you have these things that come up time and time again, because you don't know exactly what you're going to uncover in your marriage relationship that still may need to be addressed. And like you said,
Pastor Elder Eminem,
that resentment hides itself by.
Because he still got a little something about that suit, which I did apologize for, and I did replace. People, and I'm sorry I laughed.
I am not salty about the suit anymore.
Are you sure?
I am.
Okay. What about the what was the other thing we talked about? The desk.
I'm not salty about the desk because I didn't feel no emotion towards it, so I feel like you continue to press me about it, so I'm like, I better replace this girl's desk.
7 years. Huh?
7 years, about that long.
Whew, we've been through some things, y'all. I hope y'all don't let it be y'all going 7 years over one little thing that could have been resolved very easily and didn't even have to get into a struggle like that, and it just turned into so much, Lord. So let all pain be your prevention that you're able to prevent going through that. So, what did we cover? All the ways of apologize, different languages for apology.
I think.
What is that? Plan change.
Plan changed.
Oh, plan change. Is that like making a promise for setting a course going forward for how you're going to change?
Right.
Yeah, like a plan of action.
So one thing you can do with this apology language test is because looking at your results, you can see where your strength is, and you can see what your partner's strength is in an apology, and where you need to apologize. For instance, me and my wife are polar opposites in make restitution. Hers makes restitution is her number one thing. Make restitution is for me is the last one.
Hence the problems we've had.
That's why that the purchasing of that desk caused the issue between us.
Because you didn't feel like you needed to make restitution, and I couldn't hear nothing but I need some restitution.
And honestly, I think we just realized that tonight.
No, I
just realized that.
I've been knowing that.
I didn't know that your make restitution was.
Well, I didn't know that was number one, but I could have told anybody that, I'm sorry don't mean anything to me. I need to know how you're gonna fix it.
Well, see,
I
that
need you
make
to fix what
restitution.
you did. Mm-hmm.
You know, if
Make it right.
if you tell something up of mine, and I can remember back in my youth, you know, I had those relatives that would be like, you know, hey, you don't let nobody play with your toys because they might tear them up. So, you know, I still shared. And if something happened to one of my toys, I really didn't get all bent out of shape about it. I really just didn't. Because I think, you know, if they tore my toy up and I felt like they, you know, you know, they might have said, you know, Kia, you know, please forgive me for breaking your toy. And I was good. I was really good. The toy really didn't mean that much to me. And so that's why I'm looking at this right here. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why I am the way I am.
It's a revelation.
It is a revelation.
Well, I don't like people tearing up my stuff. I will share just about anything. I don't mind sharing. I don't have a problem in the world with that. Very glad to have something that can help somebody out. Mm-hmm. But if you tear up my stuff while it's in your possession, I'm going to need you to accept responsibility and come in hand with a replacement. That's what I'm looking for. Because otherwise, you just gifted me a problem. You tore up something that belonged to me and you didn't try to make it better. So you left me at a disadvantage. And so, you know, I'm sure there are other people that can relate to what I'm saying that might have similar thoughts. As the same as with you.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they don't get bent out of shape about it. They just want you to say, ask for forgiveness, because that's what you were looking for, is to ask for forgiveness, right?
Right.
Request forgiveness. So, child, y'all let our past be your way to avoid this in your future, because we have been through enough. That's why we do this marriage ministry in general, and why we come from a place of that's why we don't come to you as professionals. We come to you with experience.
Right.
We come to you with knowledge, what we've learned, as well as what we've gone through. So we might not know all the professional stuff out there. We don't ever claim to be professional counselors or, professional anything outside of our professional occupation, right, which don't have anything to do with this program. But we have been through some things. And what's interesting to me, always amazes me, is the stuff we've been through, the challenges we've been through that have almost taken us out so many times. It's never infidelity. It's never been abuse. It's never been, so many of the things that tear people apart. Of the big things that people think about, that tear marriages apart. It's all these little things. And they really, really can tear your marriage apart. And so something as simple as knowing how to apologize to your spouse can save you a lot of stress in marriage. So I'm glad y'all appreciate our openness. I just feel like that's just the life we live, and we don't mind sharing it. Because I appreciate when other people can share their experiences with me. Mm-hmm. And that helps me. So I have no problem. Pride is not an issue. We're here to help others, because I know y'all be going through some of the same stuff that we've been through. So You just might not want to talk about it, but we don't have a problem using that as a sacrifice for other people to learn from. So.
Yes, y'all, we still in this race, y'all, and we in it with you. We have not, what some people call, arrived. The Brinsons ain't did that yet.
No.
We're a long way from it. But we've ran the race a little while.
We have been in this
come to a good distance.
Well, we've been married 23 years, but we've been together 28. Yeah, because we dated all through college.
Right.
Well, most of it, because I was in college a long time.
And that's one thing that people keep on telling us, that we are pretty real on this show. And sometimes y'all don't know, we be actually talking about some stuff we maybe actually be going through at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And this helps us out.
Yeah, to me, life is too short to be faking it. Either it is or it isn't.
That's right.
So let's make the most of it. But we appreciate y'all. And y'all pray for us. We pray for y'all. Y'all pray for us too. So we request, please, that 48 years. Oh my goodness. Elder Emma Denny.
Still learning.
Yes, Brother James Denny, 48 years in and still learning. And we appreciate that you think enough of us to tune in to even see what we have to say, Elder Denny. because I know you guys have lots of great wisdom as well.
And experience.
So, yeah, and experience that goes a long way. So we love to hear from couples, older couples that can share and sometimes just affirm what we need to, be reassured on, but also to share. I talked to my grandmother a couple weeks ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. My dad's mother, my grandma, and I asked her because let me see how many years she told me they had. 62, I believe. I think she told me 62 years. She watches, so when you watch Grandma, if you'll put in the comments how many years y'all had together to get it right. But I think you told me 62 years of marriage. Y'all, that's a long time. That is at 62 years of marriage. That's way longer than I've been living.
Thank.
Well, I guess they were married when they had been married a long time before I was ever born.
Oh my goodness.
So, but yeah, that's a long time to be committed. But I did ask her. I said, "Well, what would you say? What's the secret? What's the main thing that you would recommend?" And without hesitation, she said, "Prayer." Mm. That's what it is. It's prayer. It takes prayer. It takes God intervening, to in that relationship. That was the one thing she had to say, and that was it with a period on it, is prayer. Mm. And so I found that to be valuable. So I just wanted to share that. So I'm glad you learned from this, Brother Joseph and Savannah. We love seeing y'all yesterday too. So all right, I'm not gonna start rambling.
All right. With that said, from the lady and the coach, we love y'all. Good night.